Hello and welcome to the Real Life Sports Show. This podcast is for sports fans and people playing sport. Anyone interested in sport, basically, whether that's watching it, playing it, or competing at any level. My name is Sam Adams. I'm known as the Real Life Coach. I'm a business owner and a life coach who works with sports professionals, whether that's athletes, coaches, and people in and around the sporting industry. And I help those people live more expansively, authentically, so that they can enhance their performance, whether that's playing their game or living their real life. My background is business, really. I've been in business for over 20 years in property, and I've mentored in that industry and coached. And that led me into life coaching. And then that led me into working with people in sport. Basically, because I'm passionate about sport. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about the hot topics in sport. We're going to talk about the real life behind the scenes, what it takes to be a professional athlete. We're going to have the latest news. We're going to have some discussions. I'm also going to share with you my experiences of coaching elite athletes. We will have some amazing guests, and they will be talking about the glamour and the glory, the medals, the achievements, the titles. But we'll also go behind the scenes to find out what it really takes, the grit and the grind, what it takes to excel as an elite athlete. For yourself, the listener, what I promise you is that you're going to get some great takeaways and insight from these podcast episodes. Whether you're looking to achieve or improve your mindset, it'll help you with your personal development, and it will give you that extra bit of insight and what it takes to be a high achiever. Also, I'd love for you to do me a big favour when you get to the end of this episode, or any episode, is leave a review. Leave me a 5-star review and I will be eternally grateful. So here we go, the Real Life Sports Show. So yes, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Real Life Sports Show with me, Sam Adams. And today's guest is just, I'm super excited to have this guest with us today. Another Olympic champion. After we've had Dame Kelly Holmes on the included in this series of podcasts, world champion boxer we've got in, and a rugby player champion. Now we've got another Olympic gold medalist, and it is the one and only Becky Adlington, former British swimmer and OBE as well, and double gold medalist at the 2008. Where was it? 2008. It was
Beijing.
I should have known that. Becky, welcome to the Real Life Sports Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure. Absolutely delighted to have you here. So I'm going to you've done a lot. You are basically Britain's most successful swimmer, and you've won all kinds of things, broken loads of records. Obviously, you're probably best known for 2008 and winning those 2 gold medals. Which I remember. I'm a massive sports fan, hence the show. So I remember that as clear as day. I remember crying. I think it was after the 800 meters, because you did the 400 first, didn't you? I think. Yeah. And then I remember crying at the 800 meters. So I was very invested in it.
I was crying too.
Yeah. Well, you did all the hard work. But I think you're the first British swimmer to have won 2 Olympic gold medals since 1908 or something like that, when you did it in 2008. Was that right?
I think so, yeah. I'm not too sure on the year it was, but yeah, it was definitely a while. We had Anita Longsborough was the previous woman that won gold in 1960. But yeah, double gold was ages ago.
And I think it's this double gold thing, isn't it? Because I know I'm friends with Dame Kelly Holmes, and she's been on my podcast, and she's a double gold, and it's that double gold thing that's pretty damn hard to. I mean, to be fair, any Olympic gold is hard, or any Olympic medal, but to get 2 golds is pretty spectacular.
I think it's because so many people now, it's like, because the vast amount of athletes as well that there is now, compared to years and years ago, is the fact that it's really niche. Like, so most people are better at one event. I am traditionally better at the 800 than I was the 400. The 400 was the bit of the fluke for me, that it was like a bit of a jackpot. But yeah, you do tend to have one better event, don't you?
Yeah.
Fur and everything, so that's the one. It's even like Adam Peaty, even though he's technically on all other levels better kind of swimmer. He holds the title for Britain's greatest ever swimmer, but because he only does the 100 and not the 50 and the 100, because the 50 meters breaststroke isn't an Olympic event, and because he hasn't got that double gold to his name, I still hold that. And I think that's mad, because I'm like, in my eyes, Adam is way greater of a swimmer than I ever was, but just because the 50 is not an Olympic event, he can't get that. But obviously this summer, once Tokyo's happened, he'll be able to say double gold medalist, and he hold that crown, and that's an amazing moment, because he is just absolutely
phenomenal.
And I am more than happy to just take the female crown. So that's absolutely fine.
Well, you've had like, gosh, it's like 12, 13 years, haven't you? You've been able to hold on to that. So, I mean, I think it sounds like you're kind of person that likes to see other people do well anyway. So if Adam gets it, that'll be incredible for British swimming. But, you know,
it would be, honestly, the swimmers are just swimming absolutely amazing. It's been incredible to see, especially after this past year, and them getting back in the water, seeing them racing again has just been amazing. And they're absolutely a storm in it. I am so surprised, because I knew that we've got top athletes in this country, and I knew that already, but the fact that they've had to deal with this lockdown, and I know everyone has worldwide, but in like America and Australia, they've been able to still swim because the pools are outdoor, whereas here it was a lot different. The pools have shut because of indoor and because of our rules, compared to some of the other countries, because we don't have outdoor facilities that have stayed open. So the very first lockdown, they couldn't train at all. It's only since the kind of second and then this lockdown just gone that they made the exception for elite athletes, whereas the first lockdown they were completely shut down with everyone else. And to have that amount of time off, and with the fact that how fast they are swimming, I'm really looking forward to Tokyo, because I just think we're gonna, if they keep on this kind of trajectory and keep going, we will get a handful of medals, which will just be amazing.
I cannot wait. And I had Michael on, who you know very well, Michael Gunning, and I spoke to him during when he wasn't able to swim. That's when he came on the podcast. He came on my other podcast, which is called It Starts With You. But I know that was hard for him, because I think he was down in Kent at that time, and he couldn't swim. And it must be incredibly difficult that you just can't compete and you can't keep that fitness level up. That must be really hard, because, you know, for swimmers, especially if you can't get in the pool. I mean, I guess if you're a runner, you could have still gone out and run a little bit. But swimmers, you just, unless you've got your own pool, which is highly unlikely, it's very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Honestly, nothing emulates swimming. That's what's really difficult. And I know there's loads of sports exactly the same, but it's like you've just said, if you're athletics, you can obviously still keep fit in other ways. But the feeling of being in water, and if you talk to other swimmers, they'll start talking about the feel of the water, and they'll go, oh, you lose the feel. And everyone's like, what the hell are they talking about? But it's actually a real thing. And you do lose that feel of being in water. And then you get back in, you could be the fittest person in the world, but you get back in and you'll feel like you're swimming through treacle, because it's a completely different feeling. And the resistance and everything, that you're weightless in water. So it's completely different. So the training is really hard to kind of emulate that and do something around that. And I saw so many weird and wonderful things in first lockdown. I saw people that had set up paddling pools, and they had attached like a bungee around their waist and then to a pole and just swam against a bungee pole. And honestly, there was all sorts of stuff going on, and I was like, this is just amazing. And obviously we are very lucky in this country, if you live near one, that we have actually got some amazing open water spots. So I did actually see a lot of the guys just getting in the sea or doing that, which was just like it's so different swimming in the sea to a pool, but they just were trying to keep fit and doing all sorts of different things, so they were able to at least get that feel of the water.
I mean, I live in Brighton, so I'm on the coast, and
lovely.
Sea swimming has taken off massively. I mean, you know, I love all sport, but swimming, as in doing it, I'll do any sport, but swimming is like my weakest area. Didn't learn to swim as a kid, had to learn as an adult. That was a real struggle, and I still have this big fear of the water. And I'll go in up to my knees. Even in pandemic, I went in up to my knees. But there are so many sea swimmers now down here that it's incredible how it's taken off. And I saw this great quote yesterday. It was by one of my coaches. Obviously, I'm a coach, but I have my own coaches, and it said that in uncertainty, we look for certainty, but we don't. That's not what we need. We need to be creative. And I think that's kind of what you've summed up there. We've had all this uncertainty, and yes, we probably craved certainty in the uncertain times, but actually it's made people become creative, and not just around swimming, but I've just seen so many things that people have come up with, these kooky ideas, and it made us become more inventive. And it really shows us how resourceful and how amazing as human beings we can be when our backs are against the wall. So it doesn't surprise me that people were tying ropes to bloody poles and swimming in paddling pools one bit. Anyway,
we've had no other option, have we? And I guess the good thing is that we're all been in the same boat, and all sports have been in the same boat as well. So it's not just the swimmers, it's all sports across the board. So it's amazing that they're back open anyway.
Yeah, it is. And I'm dead excited for Tokyo as well. I was supposed to have been in Tokyo last year for the Olympics. I was going for a whole month to experience it all, and of course didn't get to go. I
was meant to be out there too, and then now I'm now doing all the BBC stuff from Salford, so not quite the same as Tokyo, but at the same time, obviously I'm just happy they're going ahead, because I think they've been, like you've just said about uncertainty, I think the Olympics has been the biggest uncertainty ever. And it's still one of those that I've seen all sorts of stuff coming out of Japan that they don't want it to happen, and there's all different stuff going on. But at the same time, it is happening. They've making it as safe as possible, and that's the most important thing to obviously all these athletes.
I'm dead excited. Like, you know, I get excited about any major sporting event and all of the other things in between. So there'll be Wimbledon on, and then there'll be the Olympics on, and we've got some women's Euro football going on as well. It's just, I'm really looking forward to the summer. But anyway, I don't want to talk about me and the Olympics. I want to talk about you because I want to celebrate you. But this show really is about talking about, I guess we see the glamour. Obviously, you know, the winning of the 2 gold medals was absolutely freaking amazing, and we all see that, and we cried with you. But we don't know what goes on behind the scenes and what it really takes, what kind of mindset, what kind of routines, all of that stuff, the impact on family and relationships and all of that to get to that level of sportsmanship. I mean, my first question really is around how you got into swimming. Was it just as a kid, you got in the pool and you loved it?
Yeah. Being from a really small town in Mansfield, there wasn't an abundance of things to do, shall we say, but we're really lucky in Mansfield because we've got 2 swimming pools. One's at one end of the town, one's the other end of the town. So everyone had access to a swimming pool no matter where you lived, which is just absolutely amazing. And we've kind of got an abundance of swimmers from Mansfield because we have the 2 swimming pools. Most towns, some don't have any, let alone one, when we have 2. So we're incredibly lucky. So it just became a family thing, and it was so different. And I don't want to sound one of those older people that back in my day, you didn't have the abundance of sports. Like I've got 2 kids, but my daughter, who's 5, there's so much choice for her. There is like an abundance of different things, whether it's arts and crafts, music, drama, sports, and then even in the sports category, it's like swimming, tennis, ballet, gymnastics. There's so many different things. Whereas when I was there, it was either I had an option of cross-country running, ballet, or swimming. They were the only 3 things really available in our town. And anyone who knows me knows I was never meant for ballet at all. I'm not a ballerina. So it was kind of just left up to kind of swimming. And I've got older sisters and they both love to swim as well. And it just became a family thing. And it was one of those things as well that I think, and what I love about swimming is that it is such a fun thing. So we didn't just do our lessons and the training. We spent time as a family at the pool where you go down slides and pretending to be mermaids and get like fun stuff as well. And I think because it was so much fun, it was just one of the things that I've always seen as my hobby. Even when I was doing it at the Olympics, it was always just, I get to do my hobby. It was just, yeah.
Do you, I mean, I did athletics as a kid. I think that's obviously where my love of sport kicked in. That was pretty much the only thing in my town that we could do outside of school, sporting wise. So it was athletics. I've lost my point now. What was I going to say? Oh gosh. No, it's gone. We'll go down a different tack. So was your family sort of encouraging you to be competitive as a kid, or was it you just kind of loved it, just go and have fun, and it just kind of grew? I know you kind of said that anyway, but when did it kind of become more competitive, I guess?
Not until I was about 11, 12 years old. So you get into, obviously you learn swim at 3, you join a club about 8 or 9, you start racing about 9 or 10. But it took kind of a few years. It was just more one of those things that I used to talk way too much. I used to get told off because all I used to do was go the whole time I went swimming. And it was just one of those things that I had a really good group of friends. My sisters were there anyway, that it just was like fun. And it was just like a little after school hobby. But then as I kind of started to get a bit older, it was kind of like, Mum, I want to go swimming more often. It was kind of like I was asking to do more sessions, and I kind of wanted to train a bit harder and wanted to do more racing, and it kind of just naturally happened. And because my eldest sister is 5 years older than me, so she was kind of fully into the swing of things by then. When she was about 15, 16, I saw her going to things like nationals and kind of having that sort of life, and I just really loved it. And it was just one of those that I wanted to do more and more, and it just became a natural kind of stepping stone into building up the amount of sessions I did and kind of finding out what strokes I was best at and just kind of going through that pattern. And it was all fairly natural. My parents kind of were never pushy parents. My parents were always just like, you kind of have to guide this. And my sisters both stopped as they got older. It was kind of one of those that my dad used to wake us up at 4:30 in the morning to go morning training. And my sisters were like throwing the alarm clock at my dad, refusing to get up, just shouting, go without me. And it was always me stood by the front door going, Dad, just leave him, let's go. It just naturally became a thing that I just wanted to do it more. Yeah. It was never them pressurize it. I think, to be honest, my parents would have preferred at 4:30 to be staying in bed rather than taking me training. It was just one of those that it was kind of totally driven by myself, because I just wanted to go more and more. I hated not going.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, was it always your dad, or did your mum ever do it?
No,
the early mornings.
It mostly then became my mum. Right. It was one of those early on that my dad used to do it and then go to work, and it just got too much with 3 kids, and he was running his own business at the time. So my mum then kind of decided to stop her job, which was a really huge decision as the family. We're not from a kind of upper class, like, well, you know, abundance of money or anything like that. So it's kind of really tough decision as a family, and we kind of had to make that together. For my mum to stop her job, and kind of all that pressure came on my dad. But it was one of those that kind of, she had to look after 3 kids at the same time, and obviously as I got older, they stopped swimming, and it was like trying to take 3 kids to all different sorts of places was really, really tough. And we lived about 45 minutes away from the pool as well, so it wasn't exactly like it was just down the road. So we were spending 3 hours a day in the car together, just going training morning and evening.
Was it, how many days a week is that then you were doing that?
5 days for the both sessions, and then on Saturdays it was just the Saturday morning session. But to be honest, most weekends you were spent competing anyway. So we were always kind of in Sheffield or kind of traveling around going to competitions, and it was just it's a full old slog. It's swimming, as most sports is a real dedication from the whole family. Like, it was literally like we would get home at 8 o'clock at night, and my sisters will have made sure that they'd have cooked me tea. So it was like everyone pitched in. It was like they then would help me with my homework and make sure tea was ready, and we all kind of played a role, and it was kind of really nice. It was never a case that we had to sit down and say, you must do this and you must do that. We just naturally found our feet, and we all wanted to kind of pitch in and help out, and it kind of just grew from there, really.
So it's a real family commitment, and I guess, you know, sacrifice, really, because, you know, obviously all that your mum gave it. How old were you when your mum gave up her job?
12.
Right. Yeah. All that, you know, family commitment and like I say, certain levels of sacrifice, because you can't then go off and do all of these other things because you're training 5 days a week, sometimes 6, and competing at the weekends. I mean, that's massive.
Yeah.
So that's a massive investment of time.
I don't think a parent has willed somebody to pass their driving test first time as my mum. I think that's safe to say. I think as soon as I turned 17, they were like, here, take driving lessons, you're passing your test. And it was like, I had my sister's old car, so I could, to be fair, it worked really well because I passed so quick, because I used to drive to training at 5 a.m. So my mum got to sit in the passenger seat and just chill a little bit. I got to practice driving, and the roads were really quiet, so I ended up passing dead quick. And then she was like, I'm finally free. And then
5 years later, I'm free.
Exactly. So once I was 17, it became much easier and much harder on me, because then I couldn't go to sleep in the car, but at least it helped the family, definitely.
It relieved your mum of her duties.
Exactly.
I noticed that you've got an uncle that's used to play for Derby County.
It was my dad's uncle. See,
okay.
It's because it's the last name, but my dad's uncle. I never got to meet him, unfortunately.
Okay.
That's how my dad grew up, going to Derby County. He was a goalkeeper. My dad is football obsessed, and it was one of those, he grew up going to Derby, obviously because of his uncle, and then still supports them now, still season ticket holder, still die hard Derby County. And
good on him.
My dad was obviously gutted when he had 3 girls and not 1 boy. He just wanted somebody to take to the football, bless him. He was like, give me a boy.
But times are changing, the women's football now is thriving. It's going to be on the BBC next season. I don't know if Derby County have got a women's team. I can't think if they do now. I need to check that out. You need to check that out, Becky, for your daughter, because you never know. Because women's football now is really incredible. But the reason I kind of brought that up is because I'm really fascinated about the kind of thread of sport within a family, and whether it comes from our genes and we inherit these genes that make us more likely to have this sporting prowess. And obviously the bit that I found was that your dad's uncle was a football player, which is there anyone else in your family that's sort of a high level athlete, elite athlete?
Not at all. Definitely
really?
Not. No.
That blows that myth then.
Well, no, I'm sure like other families, I know there's loads of families within swimming that their parents have swam and kind of gone on. So it definitely happens. And I've definitely seen it in families, but no, not unfortunately in mine. My dad can barely swim, bless him. My mum and dad still do like granny breaststroke.
That's me. That's literally, get me out of here.
That's my mum and dad as well. They can hold their own, don't get me wrong, but no, they're certainly not. But they've both loved sport. We've grown up going to sporting events, even though they've not been sporty. Sport has definitely been an influence on our family. It's been one of those, growing up, sport was always on telly. It was always live sport that we were watching. It was always Question of Sport, things like that were our like family shows, if you like, that we used to watch. And we used to go to sporting events as well. Like my parents got me tickets, all of us tickets, to go watch Manchester Commonwealth Games in 2002. And that was when I first sat in the stands and went, this is what I want to do. And it was just, we're definitely a sporty family, as in we're fans of it, even if we're not taking part in it. We're definitely sports mad.
Yeah, like us. That's, I got, my dad would play tennis and badminton, but we watched a lot of sports. And my brother played American football, weirdly, which was very weird because like that was a long time ago, so there wasn't a lot of it around then. But we're definitely sporting family in that way, watchers more than doers. Well, I'm a doer, but I guess the other thing is around, when do you think then, actually, I'm really good at this? Was there kind of like a moment in, I don't know, maybe when obviously all that commitment that your mum had to give in order for you to train, was there a moment where you thought, I'm pretty freaking good at this? And where was there ever a moment that you thought, I want to be Olympic champion, or I want to be world champion? Were there ever those kind of moments for you?
Do you know what, my journey, I feel like, was like a little bit backwards in a way, because it was one of those that when I was about 13, I started making junior teams and really started to enjoy it. I picked up a few medals and things in the junior rankings. But then when I was 15, illness just plagued the family. My sister, in the same kind of space of a couple of months, my sister went into intensive care with encephalitis, which is a brain virus. I got glandular fever and post-viral fatigue. And it was just one of those that illness kind of just not stopped everything, because I still swam, but just halted everything. So I didn't ever have that moment of, oh my gosh, I'm fairly good at this, until the Olympic Games. But I think that's because of illness. I think if I'd have had that opportunity to go to the Commonwealth Games and kind of keep on the trajectory that I was on from junior to senior, I probably would have gone, oh, I'm all right at this, like kind of let's continue. But because of that illness, I didn't get to experience some of the stepping stones, if you like, that normal athletes get to kind of progress along and kind of build up nicely. Whereas I kind of went straight from junior to nothing to then Olympics, and then I did all the rest of Europeans, Commonwealth Games, Worlds, etc. So it's kind of a little bit backwards in that way because of the illness. But yeah, when I qualified for Beijing, that was the moment that I thought, hold on, I'm going to the Olympics here. And I thought I would get the opportunity, I think because of illness and because I'm just from Mansfield. I'd never even seen another Olympian before when you're from a small town. So I think it's a very different thing. And I used to think going to the Olympics was like winning the lottery, that it just doesn't happen. It's just so rare. And it kind of had that kind of prestige in my mind. And I never, ever told anyone I wanted to win an Olympic medal because I just thought somebody would laugh at me, because I just thought it was such a stupid thing that people would just be like, as if you're going to do that. So I just never ever said it out loud, or even to my coach I never said it, because I just felt a little bit like embarrassed to almost admit that was my dream, if you like.
Have big dreams.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. So when you got picked then when you qualified for Beijing, did you then start to think, was your conversations with your coach then very different? What was your, what was the strategy, I guess, and your mindset then?
Yeah, it was very different. Qualifying, I kind of didn't expect to qualify at the events that I did. Like I said, I was more traditionally 800. So to qualify on the 400, then also being a prime spot for the 4x2 relay as well. I had other things going on that I was like, oh my gosh, totally took me by surprise. And it's a really weird thing, qualifying and world rankings, because I was actually ranked really highly on them, but everyone has their trials at different times. America has theirs way later than us in swimming. So we tend to have ours March, April time. They tend to have theirs about June, July time. So they're much later on. And it's kind of like one of those that whoever goes in highly ranked is never what it comes out. It never happens unless you're Michael Phelps, obviously. But otherwise, it kind of like, it's just your entry. It's just a piece of paper. It means nothing. It doesn't matter. People don't remember world rankings before the games. They only remember who wins the medal. Yeah. So it's kind of all that matters. So it's kind of a really weird one. And we got to, I can remember doing a competition in like June time. Knew we was going to the games, and I swam awful. Everyone else on the British swimming team swam amazing, but me. And I had like a breakdown. I just came back to my coach, and we had the only argument we've ever had in 12 years of working with my coach. We only ever had one argument, and that was just before Beijing, because I just found the pressure of being highly ranked so daunting and overwhelming, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I was like, I don't know what it's going to be like. I'd never been to something of that caliber before, let alone kind of even put in my mind what the Olympics was going to be like. And I just kind of didn't understand why I was swimming bad. I now understand it's because I was in heavy training and I was right where I needed to be. But it's very hard at the time when everyone else is swimming fast around you mid-season and you're not. But it was one of those that, the conversations were different. It was one of those that we thought the bronze and the 800 was up for grabs, and we thought just finaling for the 400 would be an amazing experience. But never ever thought 2 gold medals, definitely not.
Wow, it's so good talking to you, because it's just, I love talking to elite athletes. I really do, and just everyone's mindset is so different. When you talk to Kelly, like her goal was from 11 years old to be world Olympic champion. I talked to Billy Schweer, the boxer, from 11 years old. He wanted to be world champion. Took him 20 years. And there's you, like, I want to swim, and if I get a bronze, great. If I can be a finalist, great. And then look what you went on to achieve. I just want to go back to, obviously you said you struggled just before Beijing. And I have this, obviously I help sports professionals, and mostly it's, I deal with the life stuff, so that when they go and do their training in the sport, that they're actually the best that they can be, because everything outside of sport is functioning well, and they're functioning well as humans. And the mindset that you had that made you, have that wobble, I guess, and that fallout with your coach. How did you process that? Did you work through that alone? Did you have any help with that? Was there any support for that kind of area of things?
You know what? Me and my coach had such an amazing relationship. I think because what often happens in swimming, I obviously don't know for every sport, but in swimming, you tend to probably have about 3 or 4 coaches in your swimming career, just because you move from junior to then senior. A lot of people go to uni, so they move away. You then can join a performance program. So again, you then change programs. So it's really, really rare. I can only probably name a handful of athletes that have stayed with the same coach since they were a junior athlete. And me and Bill, one of those. And Bill kind of knew me better than I knew myself. He could read my body language straight away. He knew when something was going on. He almost became not only my coach, but almost like a second dad. I often said that about him, because you have to talk to him about stuff that's going on in your life. And he was always there for me. And the thing that I really, really respected about Bill is, and not many coaches do this, is he catered for the human part of me. Yeah. I think very often in coaching, it's like you're just another athlete and you're on this conveyor belt, because for you as an athlete, your coach is your world, but as the coach, they have a number of different athletes, and you're going to retire and a next batch are going to come through, and they're constantly on this conveyor belt of people. Whereas for you, they're your everything. But Bill always treated me like I was that something for him. He always kind of respected I was just a 19-year-old girl. I was just this person going through stuff as everyone else. And after we had kind of the argument and kind of was yelling at each other and stuff across the poolside, he then came back after I'd swam down a little bit after the race, and he was like, "Beck, what's going on?" And I just opened up to him. I said, "I'm really struggling with this pressure, this responsibility, this daunting feeling that I don't know what to expect. It's all this unknown. There's nobody there to guide you or help you or anything else." And he just kind of talked me through everything. Every little step, he took the time to really talk to me and to kind of make me feel better, to make me feel more confident. He had been to the Olympics before, and he really spoke to me about stuff that didn't even matter, but it mattered to just picture stuff in my head and to just get my head around everything. So Bill became that person. It wasn't external. He became my everything, in that sense of he had to kind of be a bit of my sports psychologist, a bit of my mentor, a bit of my motivator, my coach, and everything, because he helped me through that period.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think you're right. Obviously coaches are there to get, in some, especially like football and stuff, and I see it in football, is, coaches just want you to turn up and perform. And that human first bit sadly gets lost in a lot of sports. And it sounds like Bill's a pretty exceptional guy, because you're right, these coaches are not just probably dealing with you, they're dealing with other athletes as well. And then, like you say, you retire or you get injured and you move on, and you're a commodity and you're gone, and someone else will come and fill your place very quickly. So the human, and that's the bit that I feel that that there are sports psychologists, but I do the human first, like, who are you first? That's the bit that I do, because that, knowing yourself, understanding yourself, and having that awareness can be really beneficial to your ability to train and to compete. And I really want to I want to grow that and help that all sports, really, and especially for women in sport, have that outside of their sport, someone to talk to, somewhere to go, to understand who you are, because it can be so dominating of your life. Like, if you look at your life as a kid, it was dominated by swimming.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think the thing is, especially in some of these sports where you are so young, it's such a crucial time of your life anyway.
Yeah.
Like Bill had to deal with me from when I was 12 years old. They're very different years. 12 to kind of 18 are so different, and so much is changing in your life and going through. It isn't just about senior athletes. Obviously, if you get an athlete when they're kind of 18, 19, 20, they're in a totally different stage of their life, and they're an adult themselves. You don't need to guide them and kind of nurture them as much. Whereas Bill kind of had to do that. And I think as well, it's really hard. You don't often meet coaches that can cater for junior and senior athletes, because they're very different styles. They're very different things that you need. So I think it's one of those that not many people can do that, but me and Bill just worked. I think it's like Adam, Pete, I know I keep referencing Adam, but Adam found that person in his coach Mel that they just work together.
Yeah.
They have that relationship. And I think Mel is an unbelievable coach, but given a different athlete, she might not have clicked with them. You have to click with that person. And I say that so much, that your coach is so important to be able to understand you, your life and everything. You've got to fit together, because if your personalities clash, well, you're never going to make it work, because you're just going to be butting heads all the time.
Absolutely. And I think, I'm a coach. I have other businesses, and I have my mission around my business and what I want to do and how I want to support and help people. But actually, I have different people that help me with different aspects of my life. I've actually got two paid coaches, and I'm about to take on a third one, because they do different things and they help me with different things. And I think sport is no different to that, you can have your performance coach, and maybe a psychologist is going to help you with some of that, dealing with some of that pressure and stuff. But we all need different people to help us do certain things, especially when we're high achievers like you have been. So it's a really fascinating area for me. And obviously, because I work in that area, I probably could talk about that all the time, so I won't. But I love that you said human first, because that's a phrase that I use a lot when people say, when I talk about sports, because somebody called me a performance coach the other week, and I was like, no, I'm not a performance coach. I'm a human first coach. I help people understand themselves, make sure that other vessels of their life are filled up, not just their main identity as an athlete. And that self-awareness bit, have someone to talk through, be guided by, so that when they do go on the pitch or they go to training or whatever, they're at their best, they're a fulfilled human being. Because when we're fulfilled human beings and satisfied, then we naturally perform at our best anyway. So there is a performance element, but it's not my main bit of doing it. So the human first bit, I love that you said that.
But that's, Bill always used to say, a happy swimmer is a good swimmer. That was always
exactly, that's it. I love that line. That's it. A happy athlete is a great athlete, right? And if you want to go to the next level, I think some sports that I've seen in, especially football, I hate to say it, but I've worked with some footballers and young footballers, and that it can be them wanting maybe to bring someone like me in, or it can be quite challenging for them, because they're like, you don't want to deal with all that stuff. It's just like, no, come on, just turn up, train, compete. Why aren't you competing? Well, actually, because you're not treating them like a human being. But it's changing that sort of old guard mentality really around that. But very, very interesting. So where do you think then the crossover lies, I guess, between mindset and skill set? Because obviously swimming is pretty technical, I think. When I heard Adam Peaty doing it on Good Morning Britain or something one, and he gave a swimming lesson, and I watched it. I was like, no wonder I can't swim. It was like, it seems pretty technical.
Very technical. And the thing is, I think every sport has this balance. Like we talk about in swimming so much that the perfect package of athlete, and we talk about Adam in that bracket, but that is somebody that, yes, Adam, you only have to look at him and know from his physique he's going to be an unbelievable swimmer. I mean, when you're tall, built like Adam, you've got muscles and that kind of strength and everything else, but it's about the mindset as well. I have seen throughout my whole entire career, and even now, I've seen athletes that have been at their peak physical condition, but mentally haven't been there and not performed the way they should. And I've seen it the other way around. I've seen people that are physically not in the best shape of their lives, yet they've been so strong mentally, they've pulled something out of the bag that I've gone, how on earth have you done that? Like, it's been amazing. And obviously there's loads of different things in sport that you talk about. You talk about the hard work to talent ratio and all this sort of stuff. And would always say that I had more hard work than I have natural talent. I've seen people have more talent in their little finger than I have in my whole body, but they just never push themselves to that ability. Always seems to be the really, really naturally talented ones that don't want to take and push their body to the next limit in swimming anyway. And it's really frustrating when that happens, because you're like, I'd kill for your talent.
Yes, I've heard that phrase before. Somebody, we talked about that the other day. And I've heard it in football as well. There's some, amazing footballers who've got massive amount of skill, but the will to do the hard work and the other bits is just not there. And you know that they could literally be, they're already great, but they could be phenomenal, and they're just not got the will to apply that to the skill that they're already gifted with.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. And I think it's one of those as well. You can have a gym coach and you can grow and develop muscles and areas, and same with technical ability. That's what your coach is there for, is to improve that. But you cannot teach or give somebody motivation. You can help it and nurture it, I think, and really help grow it and use it in the right way. But if you've not got it, if you've not got that drive, you can't give that to somebody else. It's just not, it's not possible. You've got to have that yourself, and that love and that dedication there. So it's really difficult. But for me, the mindset was something that I think, because of being ill and kind of having that journey, it was something that swimming became my escape. Swimming for me was the thing that I did when I was happy, sad, angry. No matter what my emotion, I'd go to the pool, and I just felt at home at the pool. Like, that was kind of where I felt the most relaxed, where I wanted to be, where I was at my happiest was at the pool. And it was one of those that after Beijing, a lot of obviously stuff changed, because I wasn't this underdog anymore. I was this thing that everyone knew who I was, and I kind of didn't understand it. And there was so much going on, and I was only 19. That I did get a sports psychologist, and it was something that even my coach, and it was my coach that actually said to me, Becky, I think you need a sports psychologist. And I went, why? And he, do you think something's wrong with me? And he was like, no. He was like, I just can't be your everything. He was like, I've never coached a double Olympic champion. He was like, I don't know. I'm in a realm of uncertainty here. And as much as I could have been there for you before, he's like, I don't know some of this stuff now. We're both going through this together. And actually, it was the best decision. And I'm so glad he did that, because a lot of coaches hold too much ego and too much pride and try to do everything. Yet he didn't. He was like, you know what? I see that you need this. I want to give you that. So went and saw a sports psychologist, and I can remember after just sitting down with, his name was Simon. First session, I came out and went, wow, I totally get it.
Brilliant.
I was really nervous, because I thought I was going to have to lay on a sofa and talk about my feelings and do everything on films and stuff. And I was like, and I also thought it meant I was weak. But as soon as I had that first session, I was like, this is only going to make me better and stronger. And actually, this is only an aid. This isn't a sign of any sort of weakness. And he became somebody that I quickly took under in my team as my support team. He quickly was that addition that I needed. I got my physio, I got my strength and conditioning, I got my swimming coach, and he just quickly fitted into that team and worked so well. And he became somebody that was fundamental to my performance. And I needed that, because as much as you can, physical stuff, I knew what I was doing in the pool and technique and everything else, whereas mentally I didn't know how to train that. And it kind of makes sense now. Why would you have a swimming coach and a performance and physical coach but not mentally? It's 50% of your race.
Exactly. It can be more than that. Like, like if you've said before, you've seen people that have not been in probably the best shape to win, but have gone on to win because they've had the mindset to. Their mindset's been that will and that mentality has just been so great that it's their body, and your mind does control your body. So ultimately, that's why that can happen. And it's changing that narrative, isn't it, around like how we perceive psychologists, life coaches, and all of the athletes that I've dealt with, apart from I've done some work for football associations and sporting bodies, but the actual individual athletes, it's not their club that have gone, actually, you need to go and spend some time with Sam or whatever. It's something they've had to do for themselves. Because, and a lot of them don't want to admit it. Like, I signed a lot of NDAs because they don't want people to know that they've got a life coach, because it's seen as, I guess, especially for men, sadly, that maybe this is a sign of weakness, when it's absolutely the opposite. This is going to make you better as a person. It's going to improve your relationships, your trust. It will improve you on the training ground. It will improve your performance.
It takes you going to one and understanding it to realize that. I do get the perception about it. I do understand, because I had that stereotype. But as soon as you've been to one and seen them or worked with them or kind of really understand it, it's such a strength and a positive thing. It's actually mad. And I think it should be an absolute essential to any top sports person. Absolutely essential. I don't see why they would have physios and gym coaches and everything else around the poolside and not
someone that helps you.
Exactly. I feel like it should be an absolute basic essential for people, no matter what your sport.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a tennis player that won a tennis match a couple of years ago, and she was like way outside the rankings, a bit like, she turned up, no one expected to win. She won the whole bloody tournament. And I remember reading an article about her. And she said the biggest difference was that she'd taken on a life coach, and she just had that person with her all the time. And when she needed to talk, she'd talk, and they'd talk about life. And sometimes it was advice, sometimes it was guidance, sometimes she'd just listen. And she said that was probably the biggest difference. And that's why I believe that I got to where I got, because she knew that her mindset and having clear thought and clear thinking and clarity in her head would support her performance. And she's gone on to do amazing things since, and she still has that person working with her. So and obviously it's what I do, so I'm massive about it. But anyway, it is just, it's so crucial. I'm really conscious of time. I've got like a shit ton of questions to ask you. I'll really try and rattle through a couple quickly. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you achieved everything you set out to, which I think you probably did, because you never set out to win 2 gold medals?
100%. And I think it's very rare that as an athlete you finish your career going, you know what, there's no stone left unturned, there's no what if moments, there is nothing that is that little niggle kind of in the background. Not at all. It's amazing to have that, because I know not every athlete has that, and I feel incredibly grateful that I feel so fulfilled with my career, that there is no regrets, there's no nothing. And I'm probably in the minority there. I do appreciate that a lot more athletes don't have that kind of peace, should we say, injury, illness, whatever, funding, whatever happens, gets kicked out. There's loads of different things.
Yeah, sure, there is.
Careers end, but I feel very fortunate.
That's really good to hear. I mean, coming sort of as an aside to that, I suppose, because I deal with some athletes that are like coming to the end of their career, and that can be really, really difficult. I've got a client that has really struggled since they've stepped away from their sport. And I do think there's a real thing here, and I've seen it seems quite common now, because you have this identity as an athlete. You're elite, you're seen in high regard, like your world literally changed after Beijing, and then you either you get injured and you can no longer compete, or you have to retire. How was that for you, transitioning away from the sport? Do you think, was there any preparation you did? Was it okay? Was it smooth? How did it feel?
No, and the thing is, it's never going to be easy. I think it's unrealistic to expect it to be easy, walk away, job done. Never, like, there was days where I just cried going, I miss it and I miss this, and I just feel lost and I didn't know what to do. And there was all those moments. Of course there is. It's your passion at the end of the day. I kind of feel like you have to go through, and I know this sounds a bit weird, but grieve it almost. It's almost like you have to go through that, because I feel like swimming was my life. For 15 years I lived and breathed the sport. I had to grieve it. It was going to be, it was almost like I'd broken up from my true love. I'd lost my soulmate, was almost how it was, that it kind of felt like that. Luckily, I kind of got that back because I settled my own learn to swim business. So I'm still so involved in the sport that I kind of feel like I still get my fix, because I'm still so involved in swimming. But it is one of those that is very, very daunting. It's scary because I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I think that's the thing with a lot of people, is that fear of the unknown. Well, what do I do now? Unless you've been to uni and you know exactly where you want to go and you want to do, it's very, very scary, because you go, oh, I don't actually know. But actually, I kind of tried to see that in a positive way. I was lucky enough, I was in the position to take a few years to figure out, well, I'll try doing this. I tried doing bits of reality telly. I tried doing all different sorts of things. I fully loved the grassroots. I think a lot of people go into elite sport when they finish and want to be coaches or whatever. I knew I didn't want to even go anywhere near elite sport. I don't have the patience. For me, grassroots was kind of my real passion, my real driver. So I think that was kind of a natural step, but it definitely isn't easy. I didn't do any sort of preparation. So even physically, I just put on a absolute shit ton of weight. And I literally just kept eating the same, but wasn't exercising. And I still wanted to keep eating. And it took a good 6 months to go, oh my God, I am huge. I need to really start exercising and eating well again. So then it kind of came back down. But yeah, it was one of those that it's just, everyone's different. Everyone kind of, I kind of discovered when I finished swimming, oh my God, I can drink, I can have chips. You've kind of got to go through that period. It's like after a breakup where you just sit there, watch a movie and eat a ton of ice cream.
Yeah.
Exactly what retiring is like. It's just like a breakup, that you've got to dye your hair a weird color, just go a little bit, do you know what I mean? Just do something a little bit mental. And then kind of you find your feet again and you find who you are. And actually it's a really important part of discovering who you are as a person, because you lose that identity as a swimmer, but you gain a much more powerful identity of just Becky. I was no longer Becky the swimmer. I was just Becky. And who is Becky? And how do I cater to what I need and what I love and everything else? And I felt like that was a really important part of my journey, was discovering who I was.
Now that's really interesting, because that's what I do with the competing athletes, is like, well, don't forget who you are, because that will really help you. But then there's the other athletes that I deal with that are transitioning out of sport that have no clue who they are and feel completely lost. Whereas for you, you kind of saw it as a bit of a, well, who am I? I can be creative. I can try this. I can do that. Whereas for some athletes, that is an absolute struggle, because they have no clue who they are outside of their sport.
Yeah, but then don't be afraid to fail. I think that's what was different with me. It was kind of like, I didn't expect to be top level at everything else. I knew I was going to be good at certain things and absolutely terrible at other things. I definitely learned after a while, and I think I learned that by failing so much. I feel like I tried so much that I was so bad at. I went, you know what? I know what I don't want to do. And I think even if you know what you don't want to do and aren't good at, that's going to help you towards finding that thing that you are and that you love. I just wasn't scared to fail. I was just kind of like, you know what? If I'm crap at this, I'm crap at this. And I just won't do it again. At least I've tried.
I love that attitude. And we're all different. We were absolutely all different. What do you think are the transferable skills that you took from your swimming that you now use in your life as you go forward, and to anything that you want to achieve?
I think a lot of it is communication. I think I had such a good relationship with Bill that we communicated so much, and I feel like that passes through so much. So even in business life now, communicating with my business partner, but also your working team really helps, and kind of trusting your team as well. I think that's really helped me in business, is the fact, because as an athlete, I had to trust that my physio, my strength and conditioning, my coach, everyone was doing the right things to make the end result of the performance. And I feel like that's really transferred into business life. I don't try to do other people's jobs. At the end of the day, they're good at their job for a reason, and actually having that trust and kind of really working together, and then that's kind of really helped kind of in business sense, if you like. But I think in athletes as well, we're really we love a routine, we love structure, we love kind of dedicating to something. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to 100%, and I'll give it all my ability. And I think athletes are very much used to kind of doing that. We don't do things half-hearted, I don't think. and that really kind of transfers and stuff like that. And I just feel like as well, just the friendships you make and kind of everything along the way. Don't forget to have fun with stuff. I was still having fun in swimming. We still did games and silly things even as an elite athlete, and I think it's really important. And never ever forget to stop having fun as well, no matter what you're doing, because that's so important.
Yeah, I think, and I do think that, obviously, like, we do get, some people do get involved in their sports so young, and that from very, very young age, like you say, swimming 3, you learn to swim, and maybe if you went on that route, you forget to have fun because it's all you do and it's all you've ever known. And I've certainly tried to help some of my clients just enjoy the journey a bit more, because there's plenty of unhappy, successful athletes, but how great would it be if you actually enjoyed it as well?
But that's what you look back on as well. Like, it's so important to enjoy the journey, and I can fully say this, and hindsight is a wonderful thing, and it's very hard when you've not got that hindsight. But I don't even look back and remember some of the outcomes or the results. I don't look back and go, oh, I went 8th this on this day and I won this medal. I now talk about the fun training camps and things like you look back in such a different way, and you look back on your memories as part of the journey and the process, rather than like, I don't look at medals anymore. Like, I don't know what time I did at what competition or anything else that you kind of pin everything on. You just don't.
I love your attitude. It's really refreshing. It really is refreshing. A couple of really quick final questions, I guess. Is there anything you would have done differently? It doesn't sound like it.
Not at all.
Yeah, it sounds like you kind of had it how you wanted it, really.
Well, even the bad stuff, I think you learn more from the bad times than you do the good. If I swam really well and won, we wouldn't analyse every little bit of the performance because you just swam well. Whereas when you swim bad, you analyse everything and you learn so much from that. And I think it takes those really tough times to learn how resilient you are and to kind of really grow in strength and mindset and everything else. So I feel like the bad times, as horrible as they were at the time, and sometimes I just used to cry for about 3 days, but after that it was like they taught me so much, so I don't regret them at all, because they made me the person I am.
Brilliant. And what's the future like? What would you like to accomplish going forward? Because obviously, you're still very young, you could have a whole new career, which I know you have. I know you're doing things in swimming still with the little ones. What do you hope to accomplish?
Just that, my Learn to Swim program. I mean, we have over 1 million kids alone in the UK that can't swim, so they leave primary school unable to swim at all, which is just huge, and it's like 50%. And obviously through the pandemic as well, that's got even worse, and the amount of inactive kids now is through the roof because of obviously the situation. So we have 20,000 kids on our Learn to Swim program, and I'd just love to keep growing that. Obviously it's not quite denting the 1 million, but just giving kids the opportunity, no matter what your background, no matter where you're from, we kind of want to get every single person being able to learn this life skill, seeing it as a life skill rather than just a sport, and kind of really making it that everyone can swim. It's not about Olympians, it's about just people being safe and finding confidence in the water. So I'd just love to keep growing that and kind of get more facilities available as well, because unfortunately pools are closing. So giving people the place to go and have that environment as well.
And is that program rolling out through the UK? Is that just...
Yeah, it's nationwide, and we've got all sorts under our umbrella. We've got a temporary pool company, so you can build a pop-up pool in school car parks and things like that, as well as Learn to Swim programs, as well as school swimming and national curriculum stuff. There's all sorts. So we kind of really are trying to tackle every single hurdle that there is out there. We're putting a solution in and just making sure that kids have the opportunity to learn a life skill.
Brilliant. And people can find out more about that at your website. Yeah, is it?
Yeah. Becky Adlington Swim Stars.
Brilliant. Awesome. Becky, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've got about 10 questions that I could continue to ask you, but I know
I talk forever as well. That doesn't help.
Yeah, no, but I love it. And I love just having a nice, easy conversation. It's been very easy to talk to you, and I really appreciate you giving up an hour of your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on.
You've been listening to the Real Life Sports Show. I hope you found some value in this free podcast. If you have, then tell someone else about it. And while you're at it, why not leave me a 5-star review? Awesome. Also, you can share it on your socials. You'll mostly find me on Instagram at Sam Adams Coach. Use the hashtag #RealLife. You can also check me out at my website, sam-adams.com. If you're interested in my coaching or have any comments at all, then just drop me a DM via Instagram and I will get back to you. I look at all my messages and I reply to every single one of them.